everyone, and welcome to Worth the Calories, a Great British Bake Off podcast. I'm Matthew.
And I'm Catherine.
So, first up, apologies for the delay getting this out to you. We now have 2 years running of us catching COVID during the Bake Off final.
I think we're cursed. The curse of the Bake Off final.
And then, of course, once you're over that, it's Christmas time, which is a little busy.
But, do you know what? It's here. The presents are wrapped. The laptop is off. The out of office is on.
We have time for a podcast and to talk
We
Bake
do.
Off. And we want to spend the appropriate time rather than rushing it out. So
Absolutely.
Here is your festive final episode.
Ho, ho, ho.
Any initial thoughts on the final itself?
I think it was I'm just trying to think how to phrase it. So I was happy with the final. I was happy with the outcome. I was happy with the positivity and the joyousness of the bakers as they went through it. I had some not issues a little bit too much, but I think I think I was some of the challenges were subpar.
Yes. Yeah.
That would be how I'd put it. So overall, a great series. Overall, a great final. But with some niggles. How about you?
And I think I'm got the same view of it, and I feel like we've had this conversation as the series has gone on. Like, it's a really good group of bakers. They're doing interesting stuff. I feel the challengers have let the series down this time. It either not enough time, not enough instruction, too weird, too complicated. They haven't quite hit the mark on some of them.
Yes. I felt the technical in particular was about setting them up to fail rather than about actually testing for the differences between the three bakers.
Yeah, agree. That's a really good way to put it.
Yeah. And I don't like that. It should be a show, a supportive, joyous show where, yes, there's an element of ranking, but deliberately setting a technical that they were hoping that someone, surprise, surprise, wouldn't know to boil vegetable gelatin. And also, why the link between the showstopper and the technical? Because they made them use their own bread. I mean, that's okay. I get that because there probably isn't time to do a brand new loaf of bread and then that. But if you'd had a mare with your bread in the showstopper, then your technical was never going to be good.
No. Well, we can cover that when we get to the technical specifically. Your point on setting them up to fail.
Yes.
This is probably me being very cynical, but there's the very popular show on Netflix, which is more about giving people real time pressure and seeing them fail.
Right.
Which has become very popular. And I'm cynical enough to think, are they going after some of those ratings? Do more people enjoy Bake Off or talk more often about Bake Off when there are problems than when there are successes? And it's a real shame because the show is best when it's people doing something they're good at really well and succeeding.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think for the most part, Bake Off gets the time pressure right, as in there needs to be some time pressure because it's competition. And actually having that time pressure, as well as sort of it's competition, but it also allows people who put the effort in to actually practice under time conditions to shine, as opposed to it just being, I'll just meander through and make stuff up as I go along.
Absolutely. And, if an element goes wrong, I have time to do it again. Well, no, this is about everything has to be right on one run through. Right, signature was the seasonal picnic. So it had to contain a bread product, a sweet product, a pie product.
Yeah, I found it a little bit lackluster. And I don't know why I found it a bit lackluster. I was even thinking as I came upstairs, we've literally just watched the show again. And already I can't really remember what they did at the signature. I'm just which tells me it didn't particularly stand out in my mind.
And again, I think the time is too tight for the amount of elements they want to do.
Yes.
Rather than the signature do one thing incredibly well, or a couple of things incredibly well.
Yes.
It's do lots of things, so you have to sort of rein it in and you can't push anything quite as far.
And I think I've just spent the first 2 minutes of this podcast referring to the signature as the showstopper. But perhaps I'm just going to make up an excuse for myself. But perhaps that's because this season's signature was a little bit like the showstopper they might have had from the very start of Bake Off.
Yeah.
You know, there was enough going on there for it to be the finale piece.
Yeah.
At maybe slightly smaller
I think
scale.
earlier seasons have done exactly this thing. So
yes.
So yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, so it was a little bit beige.
Yes.
I like that they had to make a loaf of bread. I would be interested if there were instructions on don't cut the whole loaf, because what if someone had done that?
Yep.
You know, what happens then? And maybe instructions on a specific type of loaf you have to make.
Well, yes, because if you'd done some kind of deep rye,
yeah, exactly,
that would not have worked well for the technical.
Sandra did a thing of, I've had problems on other challenges in the past, so I want to do those challenges as my pie, as my filling, really well now. And we've seen people do that in the past, and it doesn't go well. Because it's almost like admitting I know this really, you know, which a signature is supposed to be. I don't think it's the right tactic.
I think it's about the person's ego's the wrong word, because I don't think it's about ego, but I think it's about the person rather than it actually being about a winning tactic. Yeah, exactly.
And the other thing, obviously, with Sandra that we'll see throughout it is doing more than is asked.
Yes.
And again, when you've got real time pressure and a lot to do, it pushes you too far.
Yeah, editing a little bit would have helped him.
Well, absolutely. I wonder if that speaks to his confidence in his baking ability to do like 3 things really well, where he's like, I could do 5 things and impress them by the volume rather than
blowing them away with
quality,
abundance. Yeah.
Which is the same, because he's clearly very good throughout. I think he's really, really smashed it. So
absolutely. I mean, he's they're all actually really very solid. But yes, I think Sandra's baking is better than he thinks it is. So yeah, I just really liked all 3 of them this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So the picnic was fine. Yeah. And I think they all came out of it with some bits they'd done really well and some bits they could have improved on. So
yeah.
How technical then? Let's get into this. Was the summer pudding bomb?
Yes.
Which I'm not sure is a thing.
Well, my mum used to make us summer puddings, summer fruit puddings.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But it was just like a glass bowl lined with bread.
Yeah.
And a whole load of fruit in the middle. It wasn't as complicated as this.
No, I think they've overdone this. I like that they had to use their bread.
Okay.
Now, if, as you say, if someone had a mare and the bread had been awful or something, I would hope the show would have done something about it.
Yes.
Had standbys ready for them or something.
Yeah.
But I do like that.
Okay.
And particularly, again, in the sort of modern era of less waste and using things. And the Bake Off, every year you see people asking, well, what happens to the cakes? How much gets thrown out? And all the stuff that Paul is prodding and touching. And, well, surely no one's eating that, so what happens to it? I quite like that idea. You're sort of building on and building on. But there are the 2 aspects that are, we're not going to give you the instructions, and he calls it out and says, oh, these are the really difficult things where if they don't know this, they're going to fail. Like, well, then you should tell them. And the fact that the cutting the bread to the right shape to layer it, and none of them got it right.
Yep.
And these are, 3 of the best bakers. Well, then perhaps you should have given them instructions and not set them up to have a problem there.
Yeah. And I mean, the gelatin thing. If you bought vegetable gelatin, you would expect it to have instructions.
Yeah.
On the packet.
Yeah.
Like, I see expecting them to know how to make choux without instructions as being an appropriate thing to expect them to just know. Expecting them to know to boil vegetable gelatin.
It's really hard because at least 1, if not 2 of them knew how to do it and knew that thing. So it's just a general knowledge thing.
Yeah.
It's hard. I feel like perhaps there should have been something to help them with this. Maybe even use the vegetable gelatin earlier in the series to give them a chance to learn and have they learned that lesson or something,
But I mean, like, even the ones that knew to boil it, they still didn't set.
No, the time, this then absolutely leans into the time was way too hard on it.
Yeah, I mean, I think things which require the stuff to set, is always going to be something that
Yeah.
the timing's an issue for.
Yeah, completely agree.
Yeah.
So, fine. They set them up to fail, and Sandro definitely failed, and the other two did okay
Yes.
to greater or lesser
Yeah.
degrees.
Eh.
Not as inspiring as other technicals we've had, sadly.
Better or worse than the open fire pitter?
Oh, better than open fire pitter,
Yes.
but yeah,
But,
no,
yeah.
no. There are better ways of doing this thing, and like you say, even if you're just doing a bread pudding and you have to use the bread that you've made, and
Yes. I suppose, I'm just thinking about the technicals. I'm kind of open to the idea that the technicals become very, very standard bakes with no instructions.
yeah,
But maybe that's also too much.
yeah, because there was one this series, wasn't there? Of just make a lemon meringue pie.
Yeah, I liked it.
Is that not the same thing we've just said about the gelatin?
It's hard, isn't it? Because I'm just like, it's a British baking show.
Mm-hmm.
There's certain bakes which are just standard bakes
Mm-hmm.
in the UK.
Mm.
Maybe, but then maybe that makes it too easy to prepare for.
Yeah,
If you're just like, right, what are the top 30 quintessentially British
yeah.
baked goods, and you learn them off by heart.
Mm.
Don't know.
I did, because was it the first series? I think they had a technical that was make a Victoria sponge, and just the absolutely quintessential.
Yes.
But make it to perfection.
Yes.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what the answer is. I think a mixture of them.
Yeah.
Would be the thing. Anyway, our showstopper was a large planet-themed edible sculpture.
I quite liked that.
A fairly broad thing.
Yes.
Planet-themed.
I think this was all about the environment again.
Yeah, because making it about bees, there is obviously a thing about bees, and it does allow you to use honey as your core flavour.
Yeah.
But making the sculpture the orangutan feels more in line with it.
Yeah.
And then just making the planet and elements of the planet, I really like that idea. But again, because you say planets, I would have done some sort of solar system type thing, probably.
Yes.
So
Yeah. I liked it. And I think they had got a bit more detail in the instructions. I think
Right,
they had to
okay.
make a cake element plus 2 more baked elements
right, okay.
as part of the structure. So there was a little bit more focus. I thought Shabira's looked delicious. I thought that cake looked amazing. I liked the difference. I liked the fact that Prue and Paul clearly have different levels of tolerance for buttercream.
Yes, yeah.
And I thought the idea of doing stand-up shortbread for the face of the orangutan was quite a cute idea. Yes, it wasn't the cutest face in the end.
No.
But it was a nice idea.
But a nice way of doing a 3D sculpture.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then to do meringue kisses
yes.
upside down as trees is, again, very nice to do a tree canopy.
Yeah. It looked really nice.
I think Sandro had a lot of big ideas,
Yep.
and I was pleased to see him editing himself, as you say, as he was doing it.
Yes.
So trying to rein himself in, but if only he'd done that sooner and focused on...
Yeah. Was there any element within it? Because I don't think either of us are ever going to make an environmentally planet-based sculpture. But was there any element between in any of the bakes that you're like, oh, maybe that's the thing I'd like to try?
No, I don't think there was anything that they particularly did that was, oh, that's really extreme.
Yes.
You calling out the biscuits is probably the one. It's like I say, an interesting way to do a 3D sculpture without sculpting the thing. Did someone do that for? I was about to say, did someone do that for the masks or one of the biscuit sculptures earlier this series? They didn't. Someone did it on the woodworking show.
Oh, they didn't they?
They
Yes,
did exactly
yes.
that thing that when you looked at it from the right angle, you could absolutely see what it was. From the other
Yeah.
angle, it was just sliced bits of wood.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, that's a nice way of doing it.
Yeah.
How about
it's
you? Anything
fun.
that stood out?
I think the maybe not all the hazelnut buttercream, although maybe some. But I think the cake that Shabira did, all the jam in the layer, like the many layers with all the nice looking jam. I'm like, that might call to me.
Nice.
I'm really getting into fruit flavors at the moment.
Yeah, interesting.
Yes.
Interesting. They called out Shabira's flavors. as they have every week. It reminds me of other series where I feel like no one's done a cohesive thing in editing and putting the show together across the thing. Like by the end of it, the fact that everyone mentions her flavors in basically the same way, it's like, yeah, we know this. You could prompt them to give you better answers or edit it to give us more fulfilling things rather than the most obvious thing that everyone's saying every time.
Yeah, I mean, I think the descriptor for her use of flavours could do with a little bit of broadening out, shall we say. I would say, yes, she's creative with flavour.
Yeah.
But constantly saying, oh, this is unusual, this is unusual.
Yeah.
It adds a sort of a slight negative slant to the way that they're looking at it.
Yeah.
And an aura of surprise, whereas actually, yes, she's creative with flavour, and she's drawing from a wide range of influences.
She gets her flavour balance right.
Yes.
But their flavours, I think she's quite comfortable with. They're not unusual.
No, and I think it shows a slight narrowness in the experiences and the outlook of the judges.
Yes, I would agree with that. Yeah. And it's something we've called out before, where when they do, because they did Mexican Week this time,
yes,
I think, and a couple of others, they should have on other judges with even more experience of those cuisines and to be able to give more detail of them. I think there's a real opportunity there to broaden that out a bit more.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And again, it doesn't hurt RuPaul's Drag Race when they have guest judges on who have expertise in these things.
Doesn't hurt the pottery throwdown.
No, exactly.
Yeah,
it's a good addition. I think. Yes. I would. The show's been going so long. I don't think they're going to change it. I would love to see some
a little bit of shaking up there.
Yeah.
And actually, yes, maybe turning that technical into a specific challenge with an expert in that type of baking, judging it. Might be a nice way to shake it up.
Yeah, and if they're judging an art thing, get someone who makes visual. Baked elements.
Absolutely.
I don't know a better way to describe that.
No.
Visual baked elements.
Visual baked elements.
Showstoppers, you might call them.
I know what you meant.
Shabira won.
Yay!
Very pleased with that.
So pleased.
She was very strong from the beginning.
Yep.
Had some weeks where it didn't all come together, but put her in good stead.
I think it was just joyous watching her confidence build.
Absolutely,
I think while she was strong from the start, she didn't seem as strong in her self-belief as she was by the end.
No, absolutely. Very reminiscent of Nadia.
Yes.
A few years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she'll be one to it'll be interesting to see her on the circuit and doing the TV shows and things, because she's quite entertaining.
Yes.
She held her own against Matt and Noel, I think, in making them laugh. And,
absolutely. Love you, Shabira.
But I think all three of them
absolutely
were very worthy finalists. I think we said early on there were several.
Yes.
Probably 4 or 5 that they are clearly very good.
Yeah.
I have no complaints about any of this in the end.
No. Huzzah.
Yeah, an enjoyable series overall.
Yeah.
Hopefully some learning points for them. Like I said, possibly be worth thinking about this next year is, are they going after some of those other baking show crowds and audiences by doing aspects of them?
Do you want to talk about Matt Lucas leaving?
Do you have thoughts on Matt Lucas leaving?
I'm just wondering whether it's an opportunity for them to shake up the hosts altogether, or whether they'll use it as such, or whether we should expect sort of almost a like for like. So clearly it's not going to be Joe Lycett, because he said he's not going to do it. But I know that's who a number of people wanted, or whether it's they're just going to slot in another British comedian.
I suspect that will be the thing. I think it is one aspect of the show of having that very light touch.
Yes. From
British comedians. I mean, Harry Hill does very well, but he does very well with the kids.
Yes.
So that makes a difference there.
And there's a lot of performing from Harry Hill.
Absolutely. And then you look at the professionals one where it's Tom, whose name I can't remember.
Tom Allen?
Maybe.
Yeah.
But I think his sharpness works for the professionals.
I think he's a bit too mean for...
Yeah, there's something very,
acerbic.
About the presenters they have for the Bake Off. I think it's just very...
warm and
6 p.m, 8 p.m, BBC TV, ITV TV type stuff. Yeah, I don't know. Again, I don't know the better way to describe these things.
this probably isn't the most popular opinion, but I'd quite like to get rid of Noel.
Yeah?
I think there's just something about, in general,
Mm-hmm.
he's warm, he's kind, there's nothing wrong with that. But every now and then, he says something that makes me think, he's not that into baking, he's not that into sweet things, and he looks and he thinks it's a bit funny when people are a bit into baking.
Yeah, he looks down on it a little bit.
And I don't like that. I'm like, this is
a celebration.
This is a celebration of baking. Mm-hmm. Stop being a bit snidey because you're too cool for baking.
That's a very fair point. Yeah, every so often there's just something that's like,
yeah.
But compared to Mel and Sue, and Mel and Sue were the high standard, I think, because they were so good at it, who were doing the educational aspects and talking about their experiences of it. And
yes. So that's why I'm like, oh, maybe this is an opportunity
maybe so.
Shake it up.
Yeah.
Get someone who actually likes baking to be the host.
And minimise the time call stuff.
Yeah, it's a bit dull now.
We can do with less.
Got a bit samey.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it's still an enjoyable show. It's really hard because we pick it apart every week, so there is a lot for us to discuss and critique in this way. It's still incredibly enjoyable, and I think they do it very well.
And I will look forward to it coming back again next year.
Absolutely.
I just hope that we stay healthy and I don't travel too much throughout it. I'd like to have a season where we can have a consistent bacon chat all the way through the season again.
Well, let's try it. I'm sure there are some festive episodes on, so do make sure you check them out. And as ever, I think very easy recommendation of Junior Bake Off and Bake Off Professionals.
I believe Junior Bake Off starts on the 10th of January in the UK.
Okay, we'll have to look out for that. So wishing everyone health and prosperity and a good year and lots of baking.
Absolutely, absolutely.